possessive rage when Clancy had identified her as Bradford's mistress. He leaned back in his chair and drew up one knee to rest against the desk. I can see how her closeness to Bradford might be a weapon in the terrorists' hands. He had never met David Bradford, but Daniel was well aware that the man was regarded with deep affection by both Sheikh Alex Ben Rashid, who was the reigning monarch of Seti Khan, and his wife Sabrina. Even old Karim Ben Rashid, the former ruler, was tremendously fond of him. Yes, if Bradford chose to exert a little muscle on behalf of his cher ami, there's no doubt he would have the heir to the throne. Clancy nodded grimly. You're damn right he would. David would be just as upset as Yasmin if he knew about the hijacking. That's why Alex wants this mess cleaned up before David hears about it. Daniel lifted a brow. He doesn't know about it yet? He's in New York at the moment with his wife, Billy. She had to fly to the U.S. to sign a contract for a song she's written. And, of course, Alex doesn't want his old friend to have his domestic bliss shattered by this very inconvenient hijacking, Daniel said caustically. Clancy's brow knotted in a frown. Let's just say he doesn't want David to be made unhappy by this matter. And why the hell are you harping on David's association with Zilah anyway? You're not exactly a Puritan, Daniel. I'm not harping, Daniel broke off. He was harping, and he knew it. How could he explain his anger at the idea of Bradford making love to the woman in that photograph when he didn't understand it himself? You're right. I sure as hell haven't the right to cast the first stone. He clasped his hands around his knee. Okay, fill me in. So far, you've told me only that 4 terrorists have hijacked a Seti Khan oil company plane and are holding Zilah Dabala and the pilot hostage to force Ben Rashid to release 2 of their group from a Seti Khan prison. I gather you wouldn't be here unless you wanted my help. What's the scenario? A slight smile touched his lips. I admit to being curious about why you think I'd be interested in the job after my 2 years in official retirement. Clancy scowled. Alex was overgenerous, as usual. How does he expect me to run an efficient security system if he makes my best man rich enough to quit the business? You could have suggested that he not give me those oil wells, Daniel said with a grin. Your opinion carries a good deal of weight with Alex. After you saved Sabrina and her son when that nut tried to shoot them? Clancy asked sourly. I'm just surprised he didn't give you a seat on the board of Seti Khan Oil as well. He offered to do that. But I told him I'd just as soon the company stayed solvent. Daniel's eyes were twinkling. I'm no businessman. No, your talents lie in other directions, Clancy agreed. And so does your experience. That's why I'm here. I would have handled the matter myself, but the situation has become a little touchy. Touchy? As in complicated. Clancy's lips tightened. All right, here's the way it's shaping up. He leaned forward in the cane chair, and his words fired out with machine gun rapidity. The terrorists are headed by one Ali Hassan, who is the brother of one of the prisoners being held in Merisef. We think the group has been waiting for this chance for a long time. They've done their homework if they've linked David with Zilah. She's been in the United States for a number of years and is presently attending Texas A&M University. For a moment, there was a flicker of impersonal admiration in his expression. They're not stupid. They've picked their target very carefully. The security around Alex, his family, and his friends is almost impregnable. Zilah, on the other hand, is on the outer fringe of that circle, and yet is close to one of its most important members. They must have been watching for an opportunity, and when Karim arranged for the company plane to fly Zilah home to Seti Khan, they pounced. They managed to substitute one of their own men for the co-pilot, and when they were airborne out of Houston, he made his move. That was yesterday morning. They landed in the Madrona Desert and were met by 3 other terrorists. The Madrona Desert? Daniel's eyes narrowed. The Madrona begins only a few miles from here. They landed in Seti Khan territory? I told you they weren't stupid. They landed across the border in Said Ababa. They knew that government had been hostile to Alex's regime and would conveniently ignore their presence there. He paused. And the Seti Khan province closest to their location is this one, and it's ruled by your old friend Philip El Kabar. Are you beginning to get the picture? It's starting to come into focus, Daniel said. Philip is one of the most powerful sheiks in Seti Khan. Alex never enters this province.